My name's Amy Perejuan-Capone and I'm a multidisciplinary artist is the easiest way to describe what I am. I like to work from a basis of watercolour painting and expand that into ceramics and dioramas. And I also like to travel a lot, so going on international residencies is a huge part of my practice as well. The aesthetics of my work are primarily playful. I like bringing joy through sort of hyper-local details and recognition. I would describe my work as trying to explore the ecologies of objects that exist in the world, from sort of the micro out to the macro, in the domestic space, in your local space, also international spaces, and how all of these little things kind of coexist and interrelate. I like how objects are almost like a facilitator between people. There's a hidden language of objects. People use objects to reflect themselves, and I project onto objects a lot as a reflection of myself. As I gained confidence with my own work, I moved away from using a label and started assigning my own name to it as a fully fledged artist, I suppose. My background as an artist started when I was a kid, so lots of drawings, but also my parents are quite creative. My dad, his form of creativity is lots of extreme sports, exploration and things, and so we did lots of interesting things like caving and camping and exploring and going out into the bush and things like that. That sort of joy for exploration. As a child, I got to see the world from a different perspective. And then I went to art school, which kind of broke down all of my preconceptions about the world and how everything worked, and didn't quite build me back up again by the time I finished my undergrad. And so I spent the sort of 5 or so years after art school in this funny little lost space and discovered that travel and seeing different parts of the world, different perspectives and different cultures and things like that, it was a way for me to make sense of the world again. And then to further help with that filtration process, I guess, is design and objectifying the world through the eyes of design, going to TAFE, learning lots of technical skills like cabinet making and ceramic technical skills, and bringing that to the sort of conceptual, investigative sort of base that I learned at art school. So I've done a couple of ephemeral public art projects. I was lucky enough to participate in Cow Parade, which was a lovely fundraising initiative through the Perth Public Art Foundation. That was another interesting little nexus between art and design in my mind, because it was a very prescriptive project where you get a cow to decorate and make an artwork about, and that could be purely decorative or it could have a deeper meaning to it. And yeah, that was a wonderful project to be able to bring in my more locally influenced work. So I covered the cow in little ships that were inspired by the ships that I watch every day from my home studio. And another temporary art project is the City of Perth. And what I did with that project was look at the idea of an autobiographical map related to Northbridge, and Northbridge being a really important place for a lot of people and a lot of artists in particular, sort of exploring all the different objects and iconic places and how they are all interrelated in a big web of culture and mess and geography. What brought me to ephemeral art is the exciting nature of being able to produce a really succinct and temporary moment of joy. Travel is essential to my creating. I'm hugely proud of Perth and the art scene in Perth, and I feel that using Perth as my base for sort of 2/3 of the year and 1/3 of the year overseas or even interstate is a really important balance. So seeing different climates, seeing different people, meeting a lot of different people around the world, and seeing how we all sort of coexist on the planet, and we've solved our various sort of problems and issues with lots of different novel solutions in different places. It's also the concentrated studio time in new places. Iceland and Greenland and Switzerland and Portugal has brought big influences to my work. Going to more and more extreme climates is where I'm at the moment, and putting my body through physical exertion like extreme cold and blizzards, and gaining a new appreciation for the objects that have to survive and exist in those spaces and how they help the people to survive and exist in those spaces. My Transart project, One Word for Snow, I was inspired by a recent huge trip that my husband and I went on. I started in Ireland for a couple of weeks and then went to Switzerland for about 5 weeks and then spent 3 months in Greenland. And it really the idea started when I was in Switzerland, and we visited like the Matterhorn and the Eiger and all these amazing mountains, and they're based around ski areas. And Switzerland had an insanely dry winter and December, so no snow had fallen, and so these ski resorts, the proprietors freaking out because there's no snow on the slopes, and so they've got these massive machines and snow irrigation to coat the slopes in artificially created snow. So I was drawn to this idea. It's absolutely absurd that we've got this really high maintenance, expensive pursuit that is skiing, not aligning with the new way that the climate is. I came up with the idea of making random blizzards in the Perth CBD as a way to highlight the fetishization of the idea of snow in a place that's very hot, like Perth, and how a lot of people in Perth have this really northern idea of what winter is. And I saw a relationship between that discrepancy between human desires and their natural environment, and the skiing situation in Switzerland. The experience of One Word for Snow was twofold. It was the actual blizzards that I was producing, as well as the online presence, which was a spoof on the Bureau of Meteorology. So it kind of had that technical aspect and officiousness to it. And so primarily joy is something that I wanted to produce in people, and the children were going absolutely insane, and it was funny seeing parents losing it as well. But I guess I wanted people to be able to take the absurdity of the situation away from it. The work that I'm working on currently is a large installation for an exhibition at Pakenham Street Art Space as part of High Tide, which is the inaugural Fremantle Biennale. That's going to be bringing together all of my Fremantle-specific objects. So I've been making little cranes and little ships for quite a while now, lots of different processes, ceramics and silversmithing. And through that, I'll bring in my furniture to make a big interactive diorama, a playful, unrealistic set piece of Fremantle. What keeps me in Perth, or specifically Fremantle, is a sense of home. I love Fremantle. I love my actual home. My apartment looks out onto the Indian Ocean, and I get to look at the cranes all day, every day. And for me, it's like having a big theatre in my front yard kind of thing, watching all the little goings on of all these little depersonalised objects. And what helps me stay in Perth is the ability to get out of Perth and appreciate what is going on here. Perth has got a problem with looking outwards and thinking the grass is greener, the grass is more interesting elsewhere, but we've got some really amazing people that have moved here and stayed here and make art here now, and so that's kind of, for me, got to really say something. What inspires me to make art is that I can't make any sense to make anything else. I guess coming back to spending energy in a way that I can feel comfortable with, I guess. It's got to have a sense of purpose, and the only thing I find a sense of purpose in is art.